X Factor issue 37 ended with a brown, gloved hand clapping on a Jean Grey shoulder. If you were reading the X comics at the time, you would have easily recognized the glove as belonging to Wolverine. When we open issue 242 of Uncanny X-Men, we confirm that it was indeed Wolverine, who spun Jean around and now kisses her. Silvestri devotes a full-page close-up shot to the kiss, delivering it in full detail. Then we turn the page, and we get a 2-page spread of it. Jean and Logan are in the center of the page, framed by the X-Men on the left and X Factor on the right. The two groups have run into each other in Central Park, and an uneasy tension fills the air between them. Madelyne stands just out of X Factor's reach, dressed once more in her green flight suit, and with baby Nathan held in her arms. When the kiss finally breaks, Logan smiles at Jean like a predator. Worth the wait, huh, Jeannie? Jean does not react favorably to the kiss, nor does Cyclops, who demands that he leaves Jean alone. Logan sneers at the other man. You've already got a wife, bub. Lay off. Jean doesn't belong to anyone, she shouts, and she telekinetically shoves Logan away. She will not be fought over or manhandled by somebody that she once considered her friend. But her mind reels in the aftermath of the kiss. They saw the X-Men die on TV. The whole world did. The faces that she recognizes here seem so different, so changed. She's almost as scared of them as she is of the demons. She shouts for Storm to control her people, and for Cyclops to control himself. Jean also mentally berates herself to get it together. She forgot what Logan's kisses could do to her. That man. Anyways, she focuses her thoughts and reminds Iceman and Beast that it is Madelyne that they're after here, not the X-Men. The boys hop on a quickly made ice slide and head for Maddie, who cries out for help from the X-Men. Havoc responds first, blasting the ice with his superheated plasma. He calls Iceman and Beast traitors to the dream. Charles Xavier trained them to help mutants, not hunt them. And worse, X Factor does it for a paycheck. Iceman explains that was just a cover story that they used so that they could help mutants in the public. And anyway, that's old news. They've ditched that cover story, man. What are you talking about? Wolverine doesn't buy it, though. It's their ads saying it. It's their reputation that they work to build. There's no sense denying what's true. Eh, Jeannie? His senses can tell that she really enjoyed that kiss. Archangel has finally had enough. He read Logan right from the day that he first met him, and all the years in between haven't taught him anything. Jean is spoken for, man! Logan sneers. He's heard it from him all before, that Jean is too good for the likes of him. Well, to hell with that! He shouts, popping his claws. He suddenly dives at Archangel, his enhanced sense of smell picking up on Warren's pain, but in his anger he disregards it. Standing in a tree, Archangel has the high ground, and if the Star Wars prequels have taught us anything, it is the strategic value of the high ground. Archangel whips his techno-organic wings at Wolverine, and metallic feathers fly out. A veritable whiteout of blades engulf the small mutant, and since each blade is coated with a paralytic, he is also slowing Wolverine down. That gives Archangel time to swat at Wolverine with his wings, knocking him back and away. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown, episode 24.11 of the X-Men's Inferno crossover, The Uncanny X-Men vs. X Factor. From here on out, this misunderstanding fight is on! Full blast! And as cool as the fight is to see, it would honestly take an entire episode to cover the back and forth, blow-by-blow choreography of it. So I'm going to try to just stick to the highlights as we move forward and comment on things that I think stand out. Backing up a little bit, Wolverine kissing Jean makes kind of a lot of sense for the opening. It is shocking, it is an old fan-favorite ship, and it's kind of unexpected. But there's actually a lot of character logic behind it that I really appreciate. Claremont has already established that Logan has smelled Jean fairly recently, and that fact has been bothering him. Logan has to trust his senses with his life, and yet, smelling a dead Jean Grey up and around means what? She's dead. He couldn't have been smelling her. So, was he going insane? Were his powers failing? Was his mind failing him? Logan didn't know. And then the X-Men show up in Central Park, which has been transformed by demons, and then he sees her. But is she real? Is she some kind of demonic doppelganger, an illusion? Maybe he's just insane. So Logan steps in close, takes a deep breath, and does the only thing that he can think to do to prove that Jean Grey is real and standing before him. He kisses her. That's all the proof that he needs. And a stolen smooch isn't exactly a new move for Logan. But here's the thing about that. Logan is written really creepily after that happens. He teases Jean about the kiss not once, but twice. He taunts Cyclops about his relationship, or lack of one, with Madelyne. Logan is being a grade A jerk in this scene, both to Jean and to Cyclops. I'm confident that there is some part of Logan that is thinking or feeling those things, but I suspect that this acting out is actually the fault of the Inferno spell. We saw him pretty hungry for blood last issue, wanting to kill the Marauders, so why wouldn't that extend to making him horny? If one set of inhibitions have already been set off the leash, then it would make sense that some of Logan's other inhibitions have as well. I would like to quickly point out that Warren and Logan have always had trouble between them. If I remember correctly, and I cannot find a comic page or article to confirm the exact issue where this happened, Angel actually got into an argument with Logan shortly after he was recruited to join the team, because the two men are just from different worlds. Warren is a rich kid with beautiful powers who grew up alongside Jean and Scott. He loves those two. And when Wolverine started to hit on Jean, he sees this rough, uncouth, classless jerk who is half feral, trying to break up two of his dearest friends. Warren took an immediate dislike to Logan, and Logan took an immediate dislike to Warren for it. For the most part, much like Dazzler and Rogue, they have largely overcome this by this point in their history. Warren has seen Logan's behavior and his heroism, and the same for Warren in regard to Logan. It took them time, but they learned to respect each other, to some degree at least. But now, Logan has been questioning his sanity, to some degree, with his powers potentially failing him. The Inferno spell is already heightening all of his negative traits, and Warren just overcame the death persona, so he's grappling with his own guilt and internal issues. He's been having trouble with his wings, which are deadly now, and here comes Logan attempting to break up Scott and Jean after the pair overcame death and are trying to work things out. Plus, the Inferno spell is probably affecting Warren as well. So when these two characters almost hyper-fixate on each other for most of the issue, and they do, this is the reason why. I don't think I did that very quickly, but it's fine. Moving on. The other big takeaway from this scene for me is Claremont's focus on Jean Grey specifically. We don't just get to see her standing up to Logan and Scott's sense of possessiveness, but we also get to see inside her head a few times. In theory, Jean Grey is author Louise Simonson's character, as her ongoing author over in X Factor, but Claremont takes the time to let us get to know her for a little bit. It's a sign of, honestly, just how much author Claremont likes to write Jean Grey, and after all, he invested a lot of time and energy into Jean's story as the Phoenix. I can see him finally getting the chance to write her again in years, and so he just takes it. There isn't anything too special about her in this scene other than maybe Jean confirming that she enjoyed Logan's kiss, but I have to admit, I have absolutely no interest in the will they, won't they between Jean, Scott, and Logan. It's always felt really obvious to me that Scott is the stable guy that you marry and start a family with, while Logan is the guy that you bang after a bad breakup and then never call again. I also don't see there being any real meat to the threat of Jean running away with Logan, given that Jean is an ongoing cast member of X Factor, where she and Scott have been spending their time together lately. It isn't like she's just going to swap books so that Claremont can write her again, so he gets this small moment to relish having Jean again, and Claremont really takes to it. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Longshot regains consciousness, but he is now as influenced by the Inferno spell as the rest of the X-Men. Another facet of Longshot's superhuman abilities is that when he is motivated by goodness, his left eye will glow with a golden energy. But here, in this moment, his eye glows with a dark energy instead, and it appears to have some kind of effect on Dazzler. When the pair first encounter each other, Longshot is kind of like play fighting with her, clearly more interested in flirting with Allison than he is in the fight. And at first, Dazzler is reluctant to engage at all, but when she looks into his eye, she says that it makes her feel different. And they do join in with making out with each other on the ground. I am not 100% sure what happened in that scene with Longshot and Dazzler. Like I said, normally Longshot's eye glows when he's using his good luck powers to make things go his way. However, his eye only glows and his luck powers only work when he is doing good, when he is motivated by selflessness. This scene seems to indicate that Longshot was able to, brainwash Dazzler? Turn her on? She is very argumentative and upset with him before that happens, and then she's smiling with half-lidded eyes, and they start to make out seemingly willingly. So did Demon influence Longshot use his powers to literally get lucky? Because if so, that's kind of fun.
No swearing.
Duh. I'm not really sure how that works. And the only real reason that I bring this up is because Longshot is the only X-Man who got specific character attention from N'Astirh. No one else on this team was attacked by N'Astirh. No one else was bitten by him, and that means something. What exactly it means is unknown. I'm assuming that Longshot is so pure of heart that the Inferno spell was just having no effect on him, and so when N'Astirh attacked him and bit him and ate whatever goodness he had, it left Longshot, hollow, maybe? And then the Inferno spell was able to work its way in then, and now he's kind of demonized Longshot? I'm absolutely spitballing and fanficking you an answer here, but it's the closest I can come to why this scene happens between Dazzler and Longshot. N'Astirh then reappears on the battlefield and attacks Cyclops and Havoc. He then unleashes the Goblin Greys, John and Elaine, on Jean again. Maddie teases Jean that the only thing that she needs to do is kill them, and she'll be fine. And if she doesn't kill them, well, they will most certainly kill her. Longshot and Dazzler actually see that Jean is in trouble, and they leave her to it. If she is as good as her reputation says she is, Longshot says, then she'll be fine. The Big Nasty appears again, this time driving a demonic carriage with black horned horses pulling it. As it approaches Madelyne, she asks Scott to go with her. He can choose her right now and set things right. Or he can choose to save Jean. Quietly asking himself, Madelyne, God, for forgiveness, Cyclops chooses to save Jean, and he blasts the Goblin Greys away. Maddie expected as much. She climbs onto the carriage, and it begins to race away from the scene. As it does, Havoc reaches out for it. He promised Maddie that he would stay with her, no matter what happened. And he is a man who stands by his word. He climbs onto the back of the carriage and rides off with her. As they race away, Cyclops curses his brother. He had a clear shot of the carriage. He could have disabled it if it wasn't for his grandstanding. Why didn't Alex trust him? Cyclops shakes his head and turns his attention back to Jean. Is she all right? She says that she's okay, bruised and scratched, but more pissed off than anything. If that witch wants a fight, then she's going to get one. Jean then tells Scott that she saw Dazzler and Longshot abandon her, and she just can't believe it. Cyclops agrees that none of the team are acting or looking like X-Men. They might be some kind of demon simulacrum, actually. But at this point, it is clear that they can't deal with Madelyne until they deal with the X-Men, so they charge back into the fight. The man who did choose Maddie, Havoc, holds on to the carriage for dear life, but winds tear at him. His costume is being shredded right off of his body, but Alex feels worse than just losing a costume. It's like pieces of his soul are being torn away with it. The carriage finally comes to a stop at the Empire State Building, which towers into the red and purple sky. Madelyne, now dressed again as the Goblin Queen, welcomes Alex to her home. For a moment, Alex hesitates. This is the first time that he has seen her as the Goblin Queen, remember? She looks... is she... Were Scott and Jean right about her? Maddie eyes him. Does it matter if they are? And Alex shakes his head. No, he's with her. He gave her his word, and he'll keep it no matter what. Spoken like a true goblin prince, Madelyne says happily. As Alex steps from the shadows, we can see that his costume has been torn into something resembling Maddie's. Havoc was always dressed almost head to toe in black, but now a lot of that costume is missing. He had a fair portion of his torso on still, but again, it's got tatters and streamers hanging down, almost mirroring the way that Madelyne's has a lot of underboob showing. Havoc's got a lot of underpec showing. His face mask is completely gone, and he's pretty much just wearing a loincloth down south. He really does look like he has been paired with Madelyne. As the pair enter the building, Colossus comes running in from out of nowhere. He tries to shout for them not to go in. They're allying with demons. But the door, which is a fanged mouth, slams shut, keeping him out. Through the mouth, N'Astirh says that they are allying with the winners. Illyana had her chance, and she threw it away. These two embrace the deal with all of their black hearts. Colossus stares up the side of the building. Oh, he'll see about that. Then he begins to climb the building with his bare hands. What a boss! I remembered Colossus going off to take part in the New Mutants half of the story going into this, but I honestly did not remember him coming back into the X-Men part of the story. This was kind of a nice surprise for me. And he's also a really good fit for this moment. It was established in the last Uncanny issue that Peter is immune to the Inferno spell. So out of all of the X-Men right now, he is the most normal behaving one, the most heroic. So even if Maddie and Alex are allying with demons, he doesn't know why. He doesn't have any of the context here, but he knows that they need to be saved. And he won't let this simple doorway stop him. This is one of the reasons why I love Colossus. This kind of stuff right here, God, I miss this kind of writing. The X-teams then keep on fighting, but the battle looks to be increasing in its ferocity. Dazzler and Longshot keep moving around Cyclops, taunting him, teasing him about killing him and how fun it would be. Wolverine attacks Iceman's ice slide and shatters it with his claws, and then he's like, "Iceman, I'm gonna do this to you next." So it seems like everybody's escalating a little bit. Archangel swoops in and takes back his fight from Wolverine, adamantium claws versus techno-organic wings. Neither of them is holding back in the fight. They are both trying to go for the kill, and both of them are just failing at it. Wolverine is the best there is at what he does, my butt. Above the fight, Storm surveys the world. She had dreamed for so long about how she and Jean would meet again, but she did not think of anything like this. When her eyes settle on the Empire State Building, she sees a brief flash of memory. Overlaying the real image of the tower is a butte from the otherworld dimension that she and another mutant, Forge, were exiled to by the adversary. Back in Uncanny X-Men 225 to 227. It was on that butte that Forge cast the spell that allowed them to return to Earth. But why is she remembering it now? What does it mean? I'm hoping that this bit of story gets some kind of direct action payoff next issue. or soon, at least, because I'm not really sure why it's significant, Storm. Maybe because the ESB is acting as a bridge between Limbo and Earth. There's some kind of like parallel between Earth and Limbo now, and then the butte that Storm and Forge were on. That's what I'm putting my money on, but this is one of the vaguer things that I do not understand about this issue. Context would probably be helpful, but I'm not reading another 50 issues of Uncanny X-Men to make it make sense. Atop the ESB, Maddie, Alex, and N'Astirh stand on a small balcony looking over the city. The big Nasty re-explains the plan, thank you for the reminder, telling us and Madelyne exactly what is at stake here. The timing of the Master Inferno spell is critical, he warns. If the spell is not cast before dawn, then everything that has happened tonight will be undone. The world and all its people will be restored to whatever they were before this happened, and they still need to prepare. Maddie snaps her fingers, and the upper floors of the building suddenly transform. A platform shaped like N'Astirh's head appears, a large, flat portion on the top. Like a cartoon anvil has been dropped on his head, you know? There, she says with an easy gesture. One demonic temple and sacrificial altar made to order. Satisfied. N'Astirh is surprised by the show of power, but he adds that there is still the matter of the sacrifice, he says. The goblin greys then bring out little Nathan. Even in their most horrible forms, the pair dote on him like he was their real grandchild. The baby is calm as the sea on a clear day. There is not a tear on his face or a cry on his lips. Maddie wonders if he got that from her. Or from Scott. It should have been just them, she says. The two of them against the world. It's too bad things didn't work out that way. She reaches out for him, and down below, Jean reels. She can feel Christopher calling out to her. She knows what Maddie plans to do to him. How could she, Scott? She's his mother! Back above, Maddie's eyes flash in anger. She felt Nathan's mind reach out to Jean. She is the one who bore him. She is the one who gave birth to him. How dare he turn to that resurrected cow? Maddie did all the work, and she gets to steal all the credit. She whips around, telling N'Astirh that she'll cast his spell, she promises him. But first, she wants Jean Grey's heart. She wants her dead. She wants her very soul. Claremont then transitions us nicely over to Jean, who is using her telekinesis to deflect Rogue's punches. She is suddenly swept up into the air from nowhere by a powerful wind and held aloft before Storm. Both of the women ask the other if they are really them. Storm saw Jean die on the moon, and Jean watched Storm die in Dallas on the TV. So are either of them who they think they are? Storm studies Jean for a moment before smiling. It is good to see you. They hug, two best friends reunited at last. It's a pretty beautiful moment inside of all of this madness, actually. But it is cut woefully short as N'Astirh cuts in on Techno-Organic Wings himself. Jean hits him with a TK blast, and Storm unleashes some lightning, but that just seems to charge him up now. Archangel then pulls away from Wolverine, remembering his true enemy here. He owes N'Astirh for aiding Cameron Hodge, and he launches a volley of feathers at the demon. N'Astirh opens a hole in his own chest, allowing the feathers to pass through harmlessly, and they streak towards Jean and Storm. The women aren't badly cut by them, but the paralytic leaves them unable to use their powers anymore, and they begin to drop to the ground. Rogue flies in and scoops them up before tossing them to the rest of the heroes. She wants a piece of N'Astirh. Archangel catches Jean, and Beast bounces off of a building to catch Storm. Rogue, meanwhile, tackles N'Astirh, and they just start wrestling in midair. The big Nasty is gloating while they fight. They're touching each other, which will allow the transmode virus to infect Rogue. He's already won this fight, all it takes is time. But Rogue isn't worried. She absorbed a big chunk of power off of Magus. the progenitor for this strain of the TO virus, and it's made her invulnerable to it, sugar. The longer that they hold on to each other, the more of N'Astirh she's going to drain away. The demon's eyes widen in fear, seeing the trap. Maddie is not impressed by this showing from N'Astirh. She and Alex are commenting on the fight when Colossus finally arrives at their platform, climbing a 100-plus story with his bare hands. But before he can do anything of any value, Havoc blasts him off the platform. Colossus cries out, "They're friends!" And Havoc just pours the energy on. Yeah, they are friends. But he's fighting for love. Iceman sees Colossus streaking through the sky like a fiery comet. He figures that if he hits a building going that fast, Colossus will probably take the whole building down. So Iceman whips up a nice ice slide, redirecting Colossus's momentum. He is spun around in a U-shape and sent careening into N'Astirh. And okay, I gotta stop. Just for a second. I want to focus on this because this makes no sense to me. Colossus's body is incredibly durable, and Havoc's plasma blasts are hot. So right now, Colossus is a superheated wrecking ball. If he hit a building, yeah, he would absolutely go through it, sure. But the idea that one of Iceman's ice slides is physically durable enough to withstand that impact and the heat long enough to redirect Colossus just gets me chuckling. If Iceman had made a glacier, sure, that would probably be dense enough to handle an impact from Colossus, but like a 2-foot thick ice slide? You're telling me that Colossus would go through a steel and or brick building, completely through it, but when he hits a much thinner slide of ice, it's not gonna shatter? Yeah, alright, fine, okay. Anyway, the impact doesn't do much damage to N'Astirh. Apparently, he is also made of ice slide. Come on, Ben, focus! The impact doesn't do much damage, but touching Colossus actually does. Demons cannot stand the touch of iron, and Colossus's body is made of living steel. Additionally, Peter's soul is so noble, so pure, that the big nasty can't stand it. He has barely been affected by the Inferno spell at all. N'Astirh knows trouble when he is slammed into by it, and so he teleports out. This gives the good guys a chance to bury the hatchet and pull together. Storm has Psylocke and Jean link their minds temporarily, allowing X-Factor to get an info dump on how to fight a techno-organic being from the X-Men. After all, they have fought Magus before. X-Factor hasn't seen anything like this. But it doesn't take long for Beast to see a plan, and they put that plan into action. Jean lifts Colossus with her telekinesis, and Cyclops shoots him with an optic blast. This launches him towards the platform that Maddie and Alex are on. Storm then boosts him with her winds, and Colossus smashes through the platform. N'Astirh has the wall of the building turn into tentacles with, sharp sucker mouths, and they wrap around Colossus and latch onto him and hold him against the wall. Archangel then hurls Wolverine at N'Astirh, and he then flies Dazzler into the air, keeping N'Astirh occupied. Dazzler then uses a laser blast to cut Colossus free, and he steps aside to wait a minute. Storm then carries Iceman into the sky, and he just starts freezing N'Astirh, and the very building that he's on. And at this point, the Empire State Building isn't just a building anymore, it is massive. It is like a flesh mountain. As glacial ice sheets cover it, Jean remarks to Scott that seeing Bobby really cut loose, she wonders if he could freeze the whole world. Cyclops agrees. Mutants like them possess so much power. This right here, is why people fear them so much. I do have to mention, as the temperature lowers around them, Beast offers his warm, fur-covered body to the ladies to help them stay warm, and Rogue and Dazzler actually accept the offer, snuggling up to him. Hank McCoy, you sly dog. You have a girlfriend, sir. Okay, inside the ice block, N'Astirh starts to gloat. The freezing temperatures around him have lowered the electrical resistance in his techno-organic body, allowing his mind to run faster. He is conceiving spells, concepts, theorems faster than he ever has before. All that they've done by freezing him is make him more powerful. So the mutants switch tactics. Storm begins to build up a wind of equatorial heat, balmy and hot. Cyclops gives the signal, and he, Dazzler, and Colossus then hit the ice as one, shattering it. Oh, sure, now Colossus can shatter. Stop it, Ben. The ice shatters and exposes N'Astirh to the heat. The stress on his body, going from near freezing to sweltering heat, taxes his body and mind. So Storm then hits him with lightning, overcharging a system that is already taxed to its limits. The demon starts to shriek, begging her to spare him. He'll do anything. He'll serve only her. Storm replies vehemently, "Never." And his explosion lights up the sky. The top of the Empire State Building is blown away. The combined teams scan the debris, finding no trace of N'Astirh. This leaves Beast feeling pensive. If the demon was the one who started this Inferno spell, then it stands to reason that it should have stopped when he stopped. But it hasn't. This isn't over. Meanwhile, Cyclops berates Storm for killing N'Astirh. The idea had been to defeat him. Without him, how are they supposed to restore Manhattan? How are they supposed to find his son? Storm holds her ground, coolly replying that defeating N'Astirh was only possible by destroying him. They had no other choice. Still upset, Cyclops asks her what made her judge, jury, and executioner. She replies simply, "I am Storm. I lead the X-Men. That gives me the responsibility and the right." That is not what Professor Xavier taught them, Scott argues. And here, Storm just shrugs. Like X-Factor is the perfect exemplar of Xavier's dream. Dangerous forces threaten the world, and they must stand against them, she argues. But the methods, Jean complains. What good can come from being as ruthless, as heartless as their enemies? They're also distracted arguing that no one notices a lasso of energy being tossed at Jean. It closes around her neck and yanks her back. The Goblin Queen stands over the fallen body of Jean. Beside her, the Goblin Greys, holding baby Christopher, and her Goblin Prince. "Now," she says confidently, "it's your turn." What an ending. This issue is advertised as giant-sized on its cover, which is great. It's got this dark-looking versions of Storm, Havoc, and Wolverine, who are some of the most dangerous and potentially lethal X-Men, towering over an action-posed shot of X-Factor, all of them leaping out from one point to fight whoever is attacking them. It perfectly encapsulates what this issue is, these darker X-Men posing a threat to the united heroic cast of X-Factor. I love this cover. It's one of my favorites from this particular crossover. The first half of this comic is the misunderstanding fight, right? This features some well-choreographed fights, some nice nods to past continuity, and it feels really natural. A big problem most of the time with misunderstanding fights is that they often feel forced, more as an attempt to boost sales, or in the modern day, it just feels tired as heroes fighting heroes has kind of become a big story element due to rather lackluster villains or threats in modern comics. But here, it makes a lot of sense. Maddie orchestrated all of it to make sense. She weaponized her time with the X-Men and her relationship with Alex. Remember, at the end of X-Factor issue 37, when Maddie said that brother would kill brother? She seduced Alex in order to make him a pawn against Cyclops. This is also why she returned to her flight suit before the X-Men showed up. They don't know about her turn to supervillainy when this issue opens. As far as the X-Men are concerned, once they've made peace with X-Factor, N'Astirh was the main problem here. And that idea is what occupies the back half of the comic, the assault on N'Astirh and his defeat. And what a cool way to kill him! Seeing the two X-Men teams work together, the two X teams, I suppose, pushing their powers to the limits and then managing to kill an enemy who up to this point really seemed unkillable was floopin' awesome. We've seen the big nasty be cut apart by the Soul Sword, beaten by Sim, and then he was blown up like atomized when Takeshi destroyed his magical computer, and he came back from all of it. And then throughout this issue, N'Astirh has handled everything the mutants could throw at him, and Maddie as well. She's been firing energy blasts at him on and off as well. But he has shrugged off all of it. So it feels very natural that only by allying together and unleashing everything that they had that our heroes could defeat him. And you know what? He really did get blown up. I wonder if I unconsciously remembered that. I'll comment more about N'Astirh's overall role in Inferno when I do my wrap-up thoughts episode, because we've got at least one more villain to take down. But I do want to say here, this death was super satisfying. N'Astirh has been a grade A jerkhole throughout the events of Inferno. He has been a problem for literally every X group involved, and he's just a cocky, overconfident shrub. It is super satisfying to see him die. Storm and Cyclops then give us a quick recap of their team's positions. The X-Men are willing to kill the bad guy if they have to, because they believe that ultimately it's going to make the world a safer place. Cyclops believes that they shouldn't kill anyone, because killing anyone is wrong. But Storm's comeback is pretty solid. X-Factor, as a company, sold the public on the idea of the fear of mutants. It encouraged the idea that mutants are a problem and that they need to be taken care of. So, maybe neither team is perfect. Maybe they are both morally gray in how they choose to execute Xavier's dream. The world can be big enough for both of them to operate and coexist, but this scene also perfectly explains why they can't stay together all of the time. The X-Men kind of feel like they have outgrown X-Factor's ideals, and X-Factor feels like they are compromising their ideals in this story. I don't particularly agree with Cyclops' stance here, as he just literally spent 2 issues killing demons with his team while giving that action almost no thought whatsoever. What's the moral difference between killing rando demons or killing N'Astirh? Plus, Scott Summers is still the man who abandoned his wife to be with another woman, and he didn't even tell Jean that she was the other woman when he did it! A paragon of the moral high ground, you ain't, psych! Get off your high horse! With N'Astirh gone, the hard truth is now revealed to the two teams, and to us. Inferno might have been the Big Nasty's plan, but he's put it into place so well that it doesn't need him anymore. Remember earlier, Scott made the argument that Maddie was being influenced by demons, and they just blew up the demon who would have done the influencing. Without him, Maddie now stands revealed as the real threat here. They haven't saved her, and now they're going to have to find a way to deal with her. Is it even possible to talk her down? Should Cyclops try to stop the X-Men from killing her if killing Maddie means stopping the Inferno and saving the planet? Killing the enemy might be a line that the X-Men are willing to cross, but are they willing to cross it when the enemy is an old friend? How can either of these teams stop her without also doing the unthinkable? Join me in a week for Comic Book Breakdown episode 24.12 of the X-Men's Inferno crossover, Broken Mirror. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.